You are sitting across from someone. You have known them for a long time. They are talking, and suddenly you feel the ground shift beneath you. Not because they said something cruel, not because they lied, but because for the first time, you are actually listening to them. And the person speaking is not the person you have been carrying in your head. The voice is the same. The face is the same. But the one you fell in love with, the friend you defended, that person is not in the room. That person was never there. You made them up. You call it heartbreak. You call it betrayal. You convince yourself that you have bad taste in people. But the truth is simpler. Nothing was taken from you. It was not the other person that collapsed. It was your draft of them. And the day you stop romanticizing people is not the day the world becomes uglier. It is the day you finally start meeting the ones who were standing in front of you the entire time. Seneca, the old Roman wolf, knew this. He wrote, "Everyone prefers belief to the exercise of judgment." You do not check the facts. You simply believe. You believe in what you want to see, and this belief becomes your prison. First, your mind is not broken. It is doing what it was made to do. You meet someone and know almost nothing about them. But this is unbearable for your mind. It cannot tolerate emptiness. So it begins to build. Seneca warned, "It is dangerous to attach yourself to the crowd ahead." While each of us is more inclined to trust another than to judge for ourselves. You do not judge. You believe. And this blind faith eventually works toward your own destruction. Second, you are not gathering information. You are decorating a void. You notice one strong signal. How they carry themselves. How they made you laugh when you needed it. How they were kind to a waiter. And your mind takes that one true piece and projects it onto everything else. If he is that funny, he must be smart. If she is gentle with strangers, she will be gentle with me. This is called the halo effect. Your brain does it every day without asking permission. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." You are not suffering from what this person did. You are suffering from what you imagined about them. Third, you are not falling in love with a person. You are falling in love with a sculpture. Remember Pygmalion? He carved a woman out of ivory, more beautiful than any living woman. And he fell in love with her. Of course he did. He created her himself. She had no opinions he had not given her. No days when she was tired and short with him. He created perfection. And then he stood before it and felt understood. This is exactly what you are doing. You are not falling in love with a person. You are falling in love with something you carved, using a real human being as a block of stone. Seneca warned, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich." You are not living by reality. You are living by your opinion of reality. And that opinion is merely a sculpture you created yourself. Fourth, how this cycle works. Stage 1, the gap. You meet someone and know almost nothing about them. They say one thing that strikes you. One sentence. It contains almost no information. But you feel a click, and the gap begins to close. Not because you learned something, but because your mind hates an unfinished picture more than a wrong one. Stage 2, the fill. You are not consciously making anything up. You would swear you were just noticing. But between meetings, your mind runs a quiet construction project. Their long reply becomes thoughtfulness. Their short reply becomes depth. Their silence becomes mystery. And you never check if it is true. Here is the test. Ask yourself how you would read the same behavior from someone who does not impress you. An unanswered message would be rudeness. A vague answer would be evasiveness. It is not the behavior you are reading. It is the portrait you have already hung. Seneca said, "No one can be despised by another until he has learned to despise himself." You project onto the other person not their qualities, but your own fears and hopes. You deify in them what you lack in yourself. Stage 3. The audition. Once the portrait exists, you stop meeting the person and start checking them. When they match your version, you feel relief. When they do not, you explain it away. That is not the real him. He was not himself. You correct a living person against a fictional standard. Seneca wrote, "Before we accept something as an insult, let us ask ourselves whether we have done the same to others." You never ask that question. Stage 4. Loyalty to the portrait. Eventually, the evidence becomes too heavy. The gap between the real and the carved becomes impossible to explain. And this is where it hurts. You defend them to your friends with a certainty you have not earned. You forgive faster than you would forgive anyone else. And you tell yourself it is love. But part of you knows, if they are not who you decided they were, then you were wrong. And if you were wrong for 3 years, what does that say about you? You are not defending a person. You are defending your choice. You are not loyal to them. You are loyal to a decision. 5th. The day the statue breathes. In the story of Pygmalion, the ivory woman came to life. She began to move on her own. And in real life, when the person you carved begins to move on their own, it does not feel like a miracle. It feels like betrayal. You poured all that devotion, all that attention, all that hope into being close to someone. And it was precisely that devotion that kept you from ever meeting them. You did not lose them. You lost a draft. And they never auditioned for the role you wrote for them. Seneca wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You do not own another person. You own only your perception of them. And when you realize this, you stop being a slave to your own imagination." 6th, what the real day looks like. It is not the day someone hurts you badly enough. That kind of day creates a new portrait, all bad instead of all good. And you carry that one just as heavily. The real day is much quieter. It is a Tuesday. Someone you have built up says something small, ordinary, and slightly disappointing. And you notice you are not reaching for an excuse. You just let it sit there. You think, that was selfish of him. And nothing collapses. You do not stop loving them. You do not need to leave. You simply have one more accurate piece of information about a person. And you can hold it. Most people describe this as flatness. Something has gone quiet that used to be loud. You ask yourself, have I become cold? Has my capacity to love burned out? That worry is usually wrong. What went quiet was not your ability to love. It was the sound of your own construction work. Seneca taught, "Let us train our minds to desire what the situation demands, not what you imagined, not what you hoped for, but what is actually there." The people you romanticized were never the problem. Some were good, some were not. But every single one of them was more than you allowed them to be. And the strange grief of it all is that you never found out which. Seneca wrote, "If you want to put aside all worry, assume that what you fear will surely happen. Do not fear that the person will turn out to be different. Assume they are not who you think. Then you will either be pleasantly surprised or prepared. But you will stop suffering from your own imagination. The day you stop romanticizing people is not the day you become harder. It is the day you stop needing people to be simple in order to keep them. And there is a particular kind of love that only becomes available on the other side of that. Not the love that says, 'You are perfect,' but the love that says, 'I have seen the parts of you that do not flatter you. I have stopped explaining them away, and I am still here.' To be adored and to be known are different experiences, and only one of them lets you rest. You are not stupid. A mind that fills gaps with hope is a mind that wanted to believe in someone. That is not a defect. It just cost you more than you realized. And now that you know this, You can begin to meet the people who were standing in front of you all along.